Hey everyone, just walked out of the theater, Troy and I, from seeing In a Violent Nature. So gonna give out of the theater reaction. I might spoil a little bit. This movie's been out for a little over a week. It was playing in the Alamo Draft House a couple weeks ago. Me and Dale _ from the Bad Spider podcast were at the Carolina Fear Fest. And I know some people have seen it. Phil from the Spook House podcast, go over and check those guys out at Apple Podcasts and Spotify and YouTube, has seen it. Great guys, big time horror fans, but finally got to see it. I asked my son Troy to come with me. We had a little bit of a lull. I'm smoking a brisket today, so I'm like, hey, why don't we go over to the theater and check out this movie? It's only 90 minutes, so here we are. Now, I've been hearing really good things about it and some middle-of-the-road things. My good buddy Brandon from my Discord liked it, but he said there was some parts that he didn't care for. So let's see how we felt about it. Now, In a Violent Nature is pretty much straight up, it's an 80s slasher film, just made now, a little bit more artfully made, for sure. Definitely long takes, long tracking shots. And the thing that separates this movie from, not that it's unique totally, but for how much they commit to it, what this movie does, the other slashers did not do, was we basically follow the killer for 80 to 85% of the movie. With the cameras behind the killer, following through the forest, walking up on a kill that he's about to make, or several kills he's about to make. That's what separates this from most slashers. We've done it before with slasher films. John Carpenter did it in Halloween. David Gordon Green did it in Halloween 2018 when we're following the killer, Michael Myers. But this film really commits to it, where it does that for about 80-85% of the film. The kills are gory as hell. Now, I've heard some hyperbole about people were vomiting in the aisles. I've seen worse than this. Cannibal Holocaust is worse than this. But I will say, it's an unrated movie, and they go hard on the kills. I mean, there are some kills in this movie. One particular that I know everybody's talking about, but I would say there's even another one. They go hard on the kills. Very, very hardcore. And hallelujah for the practical effects. All the effects are practical. They look great. There's one, the first major kill with a saw looked like something Tom Savini would have done back in the 80s in a Friday the 13th movie, or The Prowler, or it just looks like it's right out of Tom Savini's playbook. It was done wonderfully. As soon as I saw it, I'm like, Jesus Christ, this looks like something that would have been done in one of the Friday the 13th films Tom Savini worked on. The first thing that popped in my head was Tom Savini's work in the 80s. Really well done by the effects team, and I'm glad they committed to practical effects. I am assuming this was a very low budget film. I mean, there's only a handful of cast members here. The killer, I think, is definitely an homage to Jason. You can't help but make that comparison. Besides, the mask is way different, but his look in general, his story in general, his legend, which we get to learn a little bit about as the movie goes along, reminded me of Jason Voorhees, but that's not a bad thing. I didn't mind that. And there's even a scene where we're getting some exposition, or the story about Johnny, who's our killer, the story about how he became what he became. They're around this campfire. These early 20-somethings are in a cabin in the woods, and the camera keeps falling around the outside of this circle of friends, but it's really well done. And it reminded me of the scene from Friday the 13th Part 2 when the head of the camp is giving the counselors a rundown on Jason. It reminded me straight out of Friday the 13th Part 2, which is not a bad thing. The film is shot, it has grain to it, feels like an 80s movie, and I loved it. I really loved the aesthetic of it. It was really well directed by the director. The effects were top notch. I loved the killer's outfit. I have two slight negatives. I have one big negative and one slight negative. My slight negative is there's a point where our last two final people make it to this ranger station and are with this ranger, and our killer's walking up on him, and we hear them talking about it, and the ranger's like, use released him, because there's a whole legend of why Johnny does what he does and why he gets released and activated, which I thought was I liked the story. It's simple, but it works. And the ranger has Johnny down, and he's asking this other guy that's with this girl to go get chains out of the shed and help tie him up. And the guy comes back with the chains, and he's like, I can't. And I'm like, what? And the stupid thing, and I know people always do stupid shit in slasher films, because if they didn't, we wouldn't have a movie. But the park ranger, who seems to know how to handle Johnny, is going to hand the shotgun to this douchebag who wouldn't help him tie the guy's legs up. and Johnny grabs the gun and ends up killing the park ranger in a very gruesome scene. And then the douchebag that couldn't help him gets killed very brutally, wouldn't you say? Let's just say a lot of hits to the head with an axe, and by the time Johnny's done, there's just pulp laying on the ground. And the ending is the major negative. The way it ends, I did not like. I thought it was not a good way to send the movie out, because the movie's building, and then you get this ending where it's just dialogue and long takes, and the movie just kind of ends, and that's it. And we never really get the finale I thought we might get, so I didn't like the ending. But I will say, this is a movie I did like. There's a lot to like here. It's artfully made. The effects are badass. The killer is a great slasher villain. I hope they make a sequel. I really do. And at the end of the day, besides that ending, I would buy this movie. I just would stop the movie at a certain point at the end and not watch the ending, because I think it's just pointless. Really, it really truly is. But at the end of the day, I would give this film an 8.5 out of 10. I liked it that much, except for that ending. It actually would have been higher if it wasn't for that goddamn ending. Now I'm going to throw it to Troy, let him tell you his quick thoughts and rate it. Troy, what did you think of In a Violent Nature?
I thought it was pretty good, except for the ending, and then also, well, they just build up on nothing. Unless they're building up for if they were planning on, they know they're gonna make a sequel.
Which, yeah, who knows?
It doesn't. You can't just say.
What did you think of the kills, though?
It was gory.
Yes, this film definitely, I could see why they put this out unrated, because if they would have tried to cut it down, it's more effective the way they, and you see the kills and unbridled bloodiness for sure. At the end of the day, what would you rate this film?
8.5 out of 10.
8.5 out of 10. I gave it 8.5 out of 10. Troy gave it 8.5 out of 10. That's our out of theater reaction for In a Violent Nature. If you're a horror fan and a slasher fan, I think this one's worth seeing in the theater if you have it by you. We're lucky our theater in town has it, so we're literally 2 minutes from our house, so it just made sense to come over and check it out finally. But yeah, we both gave it 8.5 out of 10 for In a Violent Nature. If you've seen it yet, leave a comment down below, let me know. Hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, share this video. I greatly would appreciate that. We'll be back soon, or I'll be back soon with some more reviews, but until next time, bye.